Unforgettable landscapes, spectacular scenery, ancient wonders. A sense of being one with nature. There's so much to enjoy when you leave the wheels behind and take to the footpaths and byways of the world's most fascinating places. Walking the traditional trails, we'll absorb everything around us, capture each walk's own special atmosphere, and explore the unique stories it has to tell. Our world is full of breathtaking wonders, and some of the most dramatic can be experienced directly, simply by walking. We can follow a trail to the planet's heights and to its depths, and go back in time to linger among the prehistoric forests and pristine landscapes of an earlier age. Tanzania, the heart of East Africa. It's a fertile, verdant land, warmed by the equatorial sun. These plains are truly the stuff of travelers' dreams. The world of the African safari, where a parade of wildlife puts on an incomparable non-stop show. Yet rising from its sun-baked savanna, there's a mountain capped with snow all year round. And from the plains to the icy peak, there's a path that winds its way through 5 climate zones. By following it, it's possible to take one of the world's most extraordinary walks, up Africa's highest freestanding mountain, Kilimanjaro. The mountain, the double-peaked volcanic cone, reaches a towering 5,800 meters. Yet despite its height, the ascent of Kilimanjaro is a walk. No mountaineering skills are necessary. Our trek will start on the lowest slopes of Kilimanjaro in the town of Moshi. From there we go to the Lemosho trailhead, then on up the mountain by stages, before a steep final climb takes us to the peak. The area around Moshi is in the homeland of the Chaga people, farmers who grow yams, maize, coffee and bananas. But Moshi itself is a busy town, dominated by Kilimanjaro in all senses of the word. Theoretically, walking up Kilimanjaro is something any reasonably fit person can do. But in fact, the exceptional altitude makes it potentially dangerous. Altitude sickness can kill, and here it often does. So Moshi specializes in teams offering professional support, and no one goes up the mountain without their help. It's in Moshi that walkers arrange their crews, pause to acclimatize to the altitude, and get their first proper look at the 2 peaks of Kilimanjaro. It's the second higher peak, Kibo, that's our goal, and tomorrow we set out for the trailhead, where we'll meet our crew. The journey to the trailhead is by jeep, along unpaved roads. It takes us through Chaga farmland. Before long, we leave the open fields behind. At the Londerossi Gate, we meet the crew who will be our guides and porters in the days ahead. We're introduced by our chief guide, known to everyone as Photo.
Karim, Richard, Joel, assistant guide, Andrew, sister guide, Hamisi, chief cook.
It may seem like a large team, but everything, food, water, tents, medical supplies, and clothing for 5 climate zones has to be carried up. And every scrap of waste has to be carried down again. Kilimanjaro's ecology is carefully protected. The trailhead is alive with activity. Everyone who goes beyond this point must register here, while a sign delivers clear warnings about the dangers of the trail. At last we're off, and for the first leg, we're still on wheels. We're climbing, already getting a bird's eye view, and beginning to see a different sort of landscape, and a different sort of road. The jeeps can go no further. From here on, the challenge begins. In a miraculously short time, the porters have organized themselves. Some have already disappeared ahead, a pattern that's to repeat itself in the coming days. Meanwhile, there are some instructions from our guide, Photo.
For today, as you will be walking in the mountain, you are not allowed to pick anything like a flower or any plant. You are not allowed to do that. Second, you are not allowed to throw any rubbish. Anything, any paper, you have to keep into your bag or whatever and give it at the camp.
At last, we're properly off on the trail. We've gone already from savanna to rainforest, and both temperature and humidity are high. The forest is alive with the sounds of birds and insects. All the time, the trail is steadily climbing. Gradually, light begins to fade, and it's time to stop for the night. Next morning dawns bright and clear, and we're off along the trail. We're still surrounded by trees, but this is already different to our walk of yesterday. We're now in cloud forest, subtropical woodland that gains its moisture more from low-lying cloud than rain. It's an ideal environment for plant life, particularly for moisture lovers such as ferns and the long dangling lichen known as old man's beard. Gradually, the forest begins to open up, and conifers start to appear, a sure sign we're already moving out of the tropical climate. Although there's still plenty of water around, there's now a fresher feel to the air. From a clearing, there's a sight of our next destination, the Shearer Ridge, and it's going to be quite a climb. The trail up to Shira introduces us to another new climate zone. Quite suddenly, just below 3,000 meters, the trees give way to scrubbier plants, giant heathers, and we're in heathland. Now we can see all the way back down to the plains and can gauge how far we've come. The heath is much drier than the forest below. Down there are more than 175 centimeters of rain a year. Up here, fewer than 60. And it's getting noticeably cooler, which makes walking more comfortable. However, there are now no trees to deflect the fierce African sun. Ahead, the porters have set up the cook tent. It's time for a welcome rest, to refresh ourselves and contemplate the climb up Shira Ridge. By nightfall, we'll be up to some 3,600 meters, and that's where the signs of altitude sickness start to become apparent, even if you think you're acclimatized.
You might have like slight symptoms like headache, slight headache, which come and goes. Some people, they might feel a little bit nausea or lack of sleep.
Such symptoms are the precursors of serious illness, as the sight of a stretcher going up the mountain reminds us. The rest of the day is spent walking through heather along an increasingly rough track. The heathers occasionally give way to helichrysums. The plant conserves moisture in its stems and leaves, while the flower heads are dry and brittle. They last for months, giving the plant its common name, everlasting flowers. Then, rounding a bend in the track, our first proper look at Kibo, the snowy tip of Kilimanjaro. It draws us onwards as the sun slowly sinks. Next day, it's clear that once more we've moved into a new zone. This is now open moorland, and only the hardiest plants can survive. The territory we're setting out across is truly rugged. It's the Shira Plateau, a large, mostly flat area, although flat doesn't seem an entirely accurate description. The open landscape is a chance to contemplate the peak ahead. Kilimanjaro was formed, geologists believe, by a massive volcanic eruption about 360,000 years ago, long before the first Homo sapiens roamed the plains below. And these boulders littering the plateau are lava bombs blown out of the volcano as lumps of molten rock. The sand underfoot is obsidian, volcanic glass. The plants that cling on here are true survivors. The soil is poor, the air thin, and the temperatures extreme. The only moisture comes from mountain streams, the runoff from melting snow and glaciers above. At this altitude, one of the most typical Kilimanjaro plants is the Senecio. Despite its size, it's actually a relation of the daisy. As the plant grows, it forks. Each fork grows for 25 years, flowers, then forks again, and it's another 25 years until the next flower. The dead leaves don't fall off. They serve to protect and insulate the trunk. Away from streams, the plants sustain themselves with moisture from the fog that now starts to roll in around us. The fog stays with us to our next camp. It's cold and damp, and through the gloom, the peak looks threatening. Suddenly, the walk feels more serious. The next day, it's clear, and prospects seem more encouraging. But before long, the cloud is rolling in again. The mist is disorientating, and it's difficult to be sure of the route. One of the many reasons why all walkers on Kili must be supported by a team. Heading towards the lava tower, this landscape feels cold and desolate. Sitting right on the snowline, the tower itself is an outcropping of pure lava. It marks the transition into the last of the climate zones on Kilimanjaro, the alpine desert. It's dry here, maybe just 25 centimeters of rain or snow a year. If the sun comes out, the temperature can top 38 degrees centigrade, while at night it drops well below freezing. It's a barren, otherworldly place. It's also dangerously high. So to minimize the effects of altitude, we're going to spend the night somewhat lower, descending a few hundred meters to the Barranco Valley. There are more Senechios here, and a few giant lobelias, with the occasional sunbird looking for nectar. There's a view through a cleft in the mountainside, right down to the hot, lush plain far below. By nightfall, cloud has filled the valleys. The next day brings an early start. There's a hard day ahead. The beginning is deceptively gentle. A pleasant valley walk in the sunshine. It's not too cold. Fine weather for hiking. Ahead though, there's a shock. A cliff wall more than 250 meters high. And the figures already ascending give us a sense of the scale of the task ahead. The going is and the drops terrifying. This isn't the place to miss your footing.
And in the whole trip, this is the toughest part for the porters to climb. It's the hardest part for the porters. To climb here with like a 20 kilogram on their head, it's the most tough part for them.
Finally though, everyone makes it to the top of the wall. A major challenge overcome. Fog has rolled in again, although it breaks from time to time to allow a glimpse of Kibo ahead. As we come to Karanga Valley, the fog is struggling with the sun. The result? A perfect rainbow. In the end, though, the fog wins. By the time we rest at Karanga, it's damp and chilly. Then it's a long slog uphill, through a Martian landscape. We're already at 4,500 meters, and every step is an effort. It's daunting to think that the steepest and highest part of the walk is still to come. Barafu Camp is the last stop before the summit. It's penetratingly cold. Time to change into our warmest clothing and hope that the cloud will clear before we reach the summit. The evening clouds part to reveal a view of the peaks. Mwenzi, the second peak of Kilimanjaro, and giant Kibo, towering above us. The fairy tale cap of ice that rises so magically from the plains is now a reality. Poised here within reach of our goal, there's a potent mix of emotions. Excitement, nervous anticipation, and a profound sense of awe. The final trek to the summit begins at midnight, a surreal walk through the darkness. Thanks to the guide's perfect timing, we arrive at Stella Point just as the sun is rising. This is an incomparable spot to watch a sunrise. There's a clear view over the clouds below. In front of us and below us is Kili's secondary peak, Mwenzi. It's a heart-stopping sensation. Each walker seeks out their own chosen place to experience these extraordinary moments. Below us is the Redman Glacier, wonderfully shaped and topped with freshly fallen snow. It's a pure, pristine world of glittering white. Breathtaking as it is, there's more to come. The tip of the peak, known as Uhuru, still lies above us, and it's time to set off on the very last stretch. At last, at almost 5,800 meters high, we're truly on the roof of Africa, and we've reached our goal, the top of Kilimanjaro. The summit is marked only by a simple wooden sign. Kilimanjaro is an extraordinary adventure, an almost mystical mountaintop experience. Yet the real revelation is that it's possible to get to that sublime moment without ice picks and ropes or crampons, just by the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other.